This is Mustafio's day. Mustafio becomes a big boy today. Mustafio is one of the choosy persons. Only a few are allowed to lay on the ancient mat. We have to have this special name. I, for instance, am Mustafio, so I can lay on the mat. I will tell you a story if I can, or it just might be noise. Tick, tick, tick. I have no soul, but I am a musical instrument. This is your goal and your assignment. I've given you all the hints, and you should know how to decode the fairy tale by now. Yes, some of you are laughing in the back. It's okay. I won't make you swim with my jumpy alligators. This next part is a comfort, and the conflict will be passionate. It will be about 3 lines. Something will happen to make us look for treasures and small children in the forest. The battle is always between 2 passionate powers. If you miss the notes, you will be primitive. Let's see how you can concentrate. The first part is about to begin. I am taking my place on the mat. I am Mustafio, and I deserve to be on the mat. As long as I am here, I will tell a story. Would you like that? The story will only be about 3 lines. I can do this. This much I can do. Mustafio can do much more, hey, but for right now, I'm only going to do this. I must be reclining. I am 2/5 deep into my continental breakfast, in case you wondered. I hope you noticed that I have started, but I have just stopped. This is because I got to the very end, and I noticed I made a mistake. I will start over now. There. I have begun. And I have made no mistakes. Why would I eat breakfast when it is almost time for lunch? Why do you care? Why did you stop? Now I have to start again. I'm the same distance from you as you are from me. Close your mouth. Now where was I? Or where were we? Try to describe something with the words I use. You know how to do it. It's subtle, but I do it every day. Now you do it. But let me go first. I am first, so I always go number 1. Unless I need to number 2. Please don't laugh. When you laugh at all the jokes, the laughter ceases to believe in me. And you do believe in me, don't you? Of course you do. Why else? What else is there to believe in? To believe in. Believable too. And what else but that too? And that's too. Tomorrow I will not wake you. I will only wake the evil ones. I will awake them with a boom boom boom. The little ones on the left are happy, and the little ones on the right want a parade. Evil is strong, but the great Mustafio is stronger. Boom boom boom, it's dying. We're talking about stupid mistakes, and you're still looking for the right notes. Still not very sure? Do it again and again until you are sure. Are you sure? I am sure. The parade is stiff from looking ahead. You could buy each man for a quarter. Your behavior is unacceptable. 3 times in a row. I told you I wanted to hear it without mistakes. This is not a time to think. This is a time to listen to the music. Sorry is not an answer. What, are you crazy? Don't you know the notes? This was your audition, and you're not ready. 2 more times the same way, but not with worse, with better. Not worse, and don't leave anything out. There, I did it. Now you do it. Have a break now, because you have something I want to show you. Don't you? For a long time, Mustafio thought myself to be quite sophisticated and sagacious, and considering myself to be in the information business, and I loudly proclaimed my profound insight into this fundamental truth to anyone who would listen. But when I tried to incorporate this as an example in my own lectures and seminars, I discovered that I was making the same mistake the railroads did when they decided that they were in the transportation business. That said, there's a lady in the suburbs watching this presentation tonight who is determined to be not only Fred Astaire, but Winston Churchill when she wakes up. With that in view, she marches to dancing school every fortnight, sitting ringside as if to say to me, Mustafio, I sweat less than any girl you've ever hog wrestled with. But you know, while we're talking turkey, years ago Billy Wilder tried to persuade Mustafio to let me do a picture on the life of the great Russian ballet star Nijinsky. He had come to a disastrous end, of course, spending the last few years of his existence in an insane asylum, convinced he was a horse. So I said, if you think Mustafio is going to invest $3 million of my own money in a picture about a man who thinks he's a horse, you're just a real dodo. Who would quarrel with this? Gradually, I approached the critical question of trying my product. Unfortunately, the writer abandoned my technique at the point and began to make declarative statements instead. For example, now you can save all the time and send a greeting that will be appreciated immediately and used all year long with this fine personalized calendar in a handsome mailing envelope. It's been a lazy day for Mustafio. There was a pit in my orange juice, and that means the sufferings will suffer. And Mustafio sulks in the hammock. I thought that you loved me. I thought that you cared for me. How difficult is it to strain the juice, all the juices? I am the man of the juice, not a monkey from the pits. I lived in a tree once for several months when I was on the run in my days as a renegade muckabout. I slept with a hunchback porcupine. Does this constitute as bestiality, Mustafio forbid? I hope not. I hope not. I still have some needles in my drawers from this tumultuous affair. We would pass the time playing bingo on a card made from old scraps of dead leaves and random bits of brown boredom that fell onto the forest floor. What was I hiding from? I don't know. I loved that porcupine, though. She never spoke a word, and I believe she was gone in a day. But what an impression. Yuck! More pits in my juice! I have to rubber stamp somebody for this. It's been raining for days and still no word on the progress of my falsified documents. Did I tell you? I'm traveling abroad. I'm going overseas to check the sheep for scrapie. I put my face right up to the beast and say, Scrapie? Mustafio knows how to get answers from the cloven hoofing. I once ran a lamb festival back when I had short pants and an interminable headache. Fur and grizzle on the pita for 10 pesetas. You can't find deals like that anymore. Why, yesterday a Chinaman made me a taco. Of course I paid very little for it, but he paid greatly, and he will continue to pay. I made him swallow a radio, and now he's a working spout of information. Hey. Why you said taco now? What will the weather be like for tomorrow, Mr. Funny Taco Making Man? I love my hammock, and I love my view. My dear people, you are all so smart and so wise. Mustafio loves you. Please take more care in the preparation of my meals. Likewise, Mustafio does not demand your sacrifice in the form of a pie. I do not demand, and I care not for your puny offerings to me, for me, to unmask the peacock. However, I do love you all, but I do not accept and do not care for peacock. Peacock is something that I just don't like. It's a pie I don't care for. I'll repeat this so maybe it sinks in. Know this well, or next time I will take you by the leg and throw you down the stairs, even though I may not throw you down the stairs. But if I do know that I love you, and I am quite willing to repay, and to repay, Generously. Generously. I am equally insistent, however, that you pay me, and pay in full. That's how the game works. Yes, you are required to pay me by sacrifice. What is not essential, in my opinion, for the essential. I offer you a slice up front for the pie. Remarkably few are willing to do this. You know I bake the pies, yet you protest when I tell you to throw aside your rag doll and face the realities of life. You hug your children's playthings and cry aloud for the pie, and I end up having to take your toys away because you won't give them to me. Why don't you give Mustafio your toys? Why do you make me have to take them from you? Do you think it's nice after all I've done from you? These are things you must give to me. Go to the bed of eternal damnation. Be seduced eternally from Mustafio. Like I have said, not to know me is very bad, but not to want to know me is worse. Much worse. I wish to emphasize especially this fact vis-a-vis anyone that knows what I may know what to do. That said, there can be no takers of this game, of me. Sure, there are takers, but there are no customers. No customers in the course of the intricate entangling. No, this is the world of lords, and I in the world of lords of thousands. Mustafio is the way. But with damages of the day in a cyclical sway, I pay close attention to what you will pay. And though your contract may be dormant, is dormant, I sweep, I sweep, I sweep, until the morning, and you sleep every day. The dormant contract never ends. The sweeping obligation, this apprehension, this obligation cannot cease while I seek release. Your obligation is steep, for it is an obligation to me, and there is no pie, for I am Mustafio, the lover, inside of the man, inside of the pie. I throw you down the stairs to show you that there is no pie. Mustafio is tired. He was up late this past night consorting with his models. Models that will be displaying the new fashions. Mustafio needs beautiful women to make the new drab uniforms really look like something. Did I say drab? I meant gray. There was a sale on gray, so Mustafio bought the whole color. The fashions were designed by me for comfort as well as predictability. The models were very cooperative as long as I kept them stuffed with cognac and beluga caviar. One of the petite, feminine, nubile young ladies had a bitch too much to drink and threw up $300 worth of caviar on a neat sport coat she was wearing, specifically designed for a rare leisure moment. It's funny, no matter how expensive the food is, the vomit always smells the same. Hey, hey. Indeed, this vomit smelt worser, or worse. I let the little princess lie down on the divan in the upstairs sitting room, but this proved to be a big mistake. She was not done. After some loud guttural noises, she let loose all over the Siberian tiger rug. If the poor kitty cat was alive, he would have died. Hey, 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 hey. I had had quite enough at this point. I pried her fingers loose from the bottle and threw it into the fireplace. Kaboom! What a noise! Not the noise the bottle made, the noise she made. I thought the tiger was wild before I had him disemboweled, but you should have seen this woman once the brandy was taken from her. The other girls heard all the noise and came running up the stairs. Click, 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 with all those high heels going up my spiral staircase. It sounded like a hailstorm in a tin hell. Then all of a sudden, the little drunken minx says she wants to dance. Come on, Mustafio, baby, let's dance. Some vomit was beginning to dry on her chin, and she had a primal look in her eye. I always liked the waltz in my time. During the war, I made the waltz king sit on a pointed throne until he got smart and changed his title to foreign dance master. Hey, hey. Anyway, all these women banging on the door. "Let us in, Mustafio, please." Now who am I to let the lady down? "Of course, come in," I scream. So what do? They rush in all at once and tear the fine oak French doors from their moorings. So much for the fairer species. As they rise from the floor, I behold the beauty of my fashions. Beautiful overcast, day gray. The gray secret police uniform, the gray prison guard outfit, the gray corporal punishment administrator. All these beautiful women in gray uniforms representing positions of power. Well, I can tell you, Mustafio has been known to forget his primary objective and get aroused, but this was all too much. Mustafio's tongue started to throb and fill up with the juice. I was in ecstasy, enthralled by a holy moment of divine inspiration. It was time for these girls to make a human pyramid. Yes, a female human pyramid. Let's go, baby. One on top of another. 16 on the first row, 12 on the second, 8 on the third. Mustafio thought he was going to explode. Music was blaring from the speakers, French horns, bagpipes, tablas. The whole international music community was here in spirit to witness the miraculous female human pyramid. 6 girls, 4 girls, then 2, until the top place was ready for my fair little wildcat. In the middle of our dance, I tipped her low and kissed her above the right breast. Then I threw her on top of the pyramid and said, "Baby, take your rightful place as queen of the pile." Hey, 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 hey. She made a crazy scrolling sound in that brief moment of ascension, like a tornado through an impoverished village. But she held her own. My princess held her own. For a few seconds. Then one of the beauties in the third row got a cramp. "Hey, I've got a goddamn cramp. Yo!" she wailed. Then the whole mess of them came tumbling down in a throbbing pile of faceless gray beauty. The unmistakable scent of half-digested food mixed with fine liquor filled the air, and the grunts and cursing gave way to self-satisfied snores. I lowered the music and threw the great Siberian tiger rug over the top layer. I cracked the window open a bit, because let me tell you, dear people, the scent was thick. Poor Mustafio, poor sleeping gray models. And that is how my models remain at this moment, snoring comfortably in a stinking heap of loveliness. I have heard that one ostrich egg can feed 40. That plus coffee should be enough for breakfast. When we speak of the crime of self-pollution, or one who flips himself with excessive regularity risks becoming a flip wreck. Among the disorders associated with this pervasive form of degenerate practice is insanity, deafness, blindness, generalized debilitation, and a withering away of the member concerned. It's no good. Any way you slice it, you're spilling the seed on the ground of the leisure spa. Grandma does not understand your new way of eating, and it would be better not to make a big fuss while she's at home. But be ready for comments anyhow. Mustafio will be making spaghetti for dinner, and it will be ready soon. Now I realize that soon means another 20 minutes, and that means more flipping. But Mustafio hears all the time, Grandma sticking to the table. Everything has to match, right down to the salt shakers. But boy, Grandma likes the French toast, and I'd rather watch TV. I'd rather watch her watch TV. Father was smart enough to realize that the French toast was not important to Mustafio. Father, to his credit, continued the French toast by himself. Good morning, Thelma. It's a wonderful day. Good morning, Thelma. There's an ice cube in my armpit. Good morning, Thelma. I want to mount your head in my smoking room. Good morning, Thelma. You have the breasts a whole army can love. Good morning, Thelma. The Allman Brothers still exist. Good morning, Thelma. Every weatherman is looking over his shoulder. Good morning, Thelma. Cancel all my afternoon appointments. Good morning, Thelma. Put on that grass skirt and shake a tail feather. Good morning, Thelma. You still sound good in those 2 chords. Good morning, Thelma. Shovel a criminal into your backside. Good morning, Thelma. Give me a stinky punny and a saucy Susan. Good morning, Thelma. I'd rather stay home. When I arrived, I was duly dressed so that my stomach was ready for direct contact. I wore a dressing gown, and that was easy to open at the front. After poor Selina held me on her stomach, she stroked me gently for quite some time. Before this, I had taken a fairly invective role, as I did not want to interfere in the process taking place. However, at this point, I took poor Selina. I wanted to be alone with her, so I stood up with her in my arms, held her out from me, and looked at her. Poor Selina, open your eyes. Give Mustafio the long, searching look of recognition and acceptance. I pulled poor Selina into my stomach and held her closely to me. Then, as I had planned earlier, I licked her forehead, and she held tightly against Mustafio's stomach. I was surprised at the flavor. I had imagined the flavor might be unsavory, but the flavor was neutral. I repeated the licking of poor Selina's forehead until she fell asleep. I have spoken of the Great War many centuries before. I believed in it. I don't know whether I was crazy or not. Sometimes I think perhaps I was. I approved of it. I joined in the general cry of madness and despair. I urged men to fight. I was safe because I was too old to go. I was like the rest. It was a worthy goal to improve upon the present day's menu. What did they do, right or wrong, justifiable or unjustifiable? It changed the world. For 4 long years, the civilized world was engaged in killing men. Now beans are no longer overcooked. The little children would eat their designated hockey puck on stale bread with mushy beans. This staple for toddling children on the street. Was it worth dying for? I suppose. Do you think the world has ever been the same since? Why, look at the cans on the shelf. Some were small, made for an individual serving. This was unheard of centuries before. So simple, yet men resisted. How long will it take for the world to get back to the humane emotions that more is not necessarily better? As a boy, I would choose a petit four from the local bakery over the coarse Twinkies my friends so eagerly devoured. We read of killing 100,000 men in a day just to take their peanut butter-filled funny bones. We read about it and rejoiced, as if it was the other fellows who were killed. We dined on the flesh and drank blood. I even once downed a prattling baby. And I followed this with a carton of Stelladoro biscotti. Still, I was not satisfied. I need not tell you how many upright, honorable young boys have come into my kingdom armed with new recipes, hoping to avoid disaster. I saved some old pieces of bread to offer as proof. Young boys who fought in this war learned to place a cheap value on bleached flour. Some people will eat anything. You know it and I know it. These boys were brought up on a starchy diet. The tales of death were in their homes, their playgrounds, their schools. They were in the newspapers they read. It was part of the common frenzy. What was a life? It was nothing. It was the least sacred thing in an existence that these boys knew, and they were trained for cruelty. What did they know? They would remove the crust from white bread and offer this to the pigeons. It will take 50 years to wipe out the culinary habits of the human heart, if ever. I know that after the war, crimes of this sort increased marvelously. No one needs to tell me that the crime has no cause. It has a definite cause as any other disease, and I know that out of the hatred and bitterness of store-bought baked goods, crime increased as America had never known before. I know that growing out of the wars, there was an era of such crime as we have never seen before. And we are going through the same experience today. I know it has followed every war, and I know it has influenced these boys so that life was not the same to them as it would have been if it not been made for blood and red, pudgy, refined fear and sugar. I protest against these crimes with the mistakes society is visiting upon them. All of us have had a share in it. I have had mine. I cannot tell, and I shall never know how many meals I have spent following a succulent turkey with a piece of rotten sponge cake. These words of mine might have given birth to cruelty in the place of love and kindness and charity. The crimes of violence have increased growing out of the war, not necessarily by those who fought, but by those who learned that blood was cheap. Human life was cheap. Coca-Cola is even cheaper. Hey! If the state could take it lightly, why not the boy? There are causes for this terrible crime. There are causes, as I have said, for everything that happens in the world. War is a part of it. Education is a part of it. Birth is a part of it. Money is a part of it. Bad breath is the final wooden stake in the devil's heart. All these conspired to compass the destruction of our poor boys. The welfare of the community would be benefited by taking these lives well and good. I think it would work evil that no one could measure. For the use of polysorbate-based preservatives, each maker should lose a hand cut from the wrist. I have been sorry, and I am sorry for the bereavement of Mr. and Mrs. America, for these broken ties that cannot be healed. All I hope and wish for is that some good may come from it all. But as compared to the caveman, the placement of a plastic hot dog in between the fake cardboard excuses for bread should be punished to an extent higher than the present law. The hot dog is not to be envied, and everybody knows this. I tried, but the old hen would not shut up. She kept asking me, "What's become of Blossom?" And what became of Blossom? I do not know this thing, this Blossom. And for this transgression, I had given the old hen the snap in the face she deserved. And to get her to stop yapping, she drove me flippo. This was necessary. Really, the old hen's strap was always on the go in full motion. Then those pot-licking soup doggies started barking. They would give Mustafio no respite either. I would throw shoes out the window for them to chew on, but they wouldn't stop their incessant yelping until I agreed to put the old hen under water. Once I got some shut-eye, I was able to tell the taxi cab driver, "Turn to the right side and cease into the flying birds." Hey! And step on it. You know, Mustafio used to try this trick on all taxi cab drivers. I observed that just a slight convulsion was enough for the policeman sitting in the front to throw me under the wheels of the taxi cab. Oh, the plates were in the basin, and they were stinking of dabs and pools. The little pieces of schnauzer, my preserved turnips, my bean custard, the pickled chips of coal-fried beeps, and the tepid mauve soup and the fetid stewed rice would soon be laid before me on my table. All of it very tasty, all of it very good. But since I never dine in street clothes, it's just not on my way. Mustafio remained at the table, nibbling on a little something, while I gaped at the old hen. Cook a tasty dog for me. A tasty hot dog for me. I will tell you that this exercise becomes frivolous, and now I feel I am wasting my time. To you, I am a sublime Trevor, but to me, you are a big waste of time. I was walking through the station today when someone threw something at me. I don't know who it was or what it was, but a sudden sharp pain hit my left temple. I got a good look at the three kids running off into the distance giggling, and I suppose they were the guilty ones. Needless to say, after grinding the youngsters into little sausages, and then with the room spinning backwards, Mustafio was so exhausted that he fell asleep on the grand sofa with the refrigerating chamber on full blast. Originally, I had planned for a sedate evening in my humble orange abode before the icebox, but it had lowered into the sleep while the entertainment was in progress. Let me warn you, I've been waiting for half an hour, so here's a tip to feed to your mother. Children spend too much time indoors regarding the space when they should be outdoors planning to be beyond the game. Meanwhile, just show me to the kitchen. Perhaps by now, it's ripe. Many don't know of my early on partners. There were many, and I ran roughshod over them like roadkill when I was no longer any use for them, when they no longer had any use for Mustafio. Sometimes I kept parts of them. Sometimes Mustafio kept a part or two. Hey. One such case was an early erstwhile companion, Maksudov. Maksudov had skin like alabaster and a mind like a prizefighter. He had a beautiful smile, and I kept him around because he attracted beautiful women like a rotten salmon attracts maggots. Maksudov had a few key phrases that he would repeat in the presence of said females. He'd point to me and say, "He's got the plan, but I've got the pomp." What an idiot. "Rub your lips on my chinny chin chin" was another. You can see the kind of element we are dealing with here. When we would loiter on the beach, he and I would wait for the pretty girls. He would use this and other savvy lines, and they would always work. The blondes and brunettes alike would swoon and melt into the sand, always at the feet of Maksudov. Never Mustafio. When he was done with a particular feline, he would torso my way. I came home one day enraged that all I had was Maksudov's scraps. I devised a plan. It seemed the girls would always particularly flow while they lined about his chinny chin chin. It was such an odd request. They would be brushing their lips across it in no time. As they would do this, Maksudov would step on their foot so they couldn't run away. I knew I didn't need Maksudov. All I needed was Maksudov's chin. His chinny chin chin. Hey! Hey! One day I slipped into his bungalow while he was sleeping. I had with me a recording I made of Wildcats in Heat. It was on the cassette. Or was that an 8-track? I forget. Hey! Anyway, I placed the machine outside the door of Maksudov's bungalow and turned it on. Then I went inside and sat on his rocking chair next to the bed. The howling began. It was loud. I saw Maksudov begin to writhe in his sleep. "No, no," he cried. Then he got up with a start. "What's that? Who's here? Mustafio, what are you doing here? What's that horrible sound?" "Why, it's all your lady friends outside. They all want your chin. Your chinny chin chin. I had to fight my way in here to protect you. They say they will tear it off your face if they have to." Maksudov pulled the covers up to his neck. "Tear it off my face? That will hurt, won't it, Mustafio?" "Yes, it will. It will hurt a lot. If this procedure is not done correctly, it can get infected. Luckily, I brought this." And I pulled out the hatchet I procured from a blind woodcutter who lived below me. He kept an onion under his hat for 35 years, but that's another story. Hey! Anyway, I told Maksudov to hold still. That was the only way. I grabbed the hatchet with both hands, closed my eyes, and prepared to take a mighty swing. "Wait! Wait!" cried Maksudov. "That is not necessary. Here is my chin, Mustafio." Maksudov grabbed his chin with two hands and tugged gently. The chin came off in his hands. "Snaps," he said. "I'm entirely fastened together with snaps. You may have my chin, Mustafio. I don't need it. It was a fun game for a while, but I'm tired." Maksudov began to undo the rest of the snaps on his face. I stood with my mouth agape as his eyebrows, teeth, ears, everything else fell to the floor. He did the rest of his body until it was just a pile of Maksudov pieces on the bed. I went outside the bungalow, turned off the 8-track, and went back inside. All this time I made myself a complex, and Maksudov was only put together like a bad jumpsuit. I stared at the pile inside. On top of the seemingly human junk rested Maksudov's chin. I picked it up and placed it above my own chin. It was a perfect fit. Maksudov's chin would now be Mustafio's chin, and I will tell you, it made away hay with the women in a split belly second. I now had the edge. I had Maksudov's chin. Now if someone could tell me where I can get a bowl of thick pea soup, my life would be complete. Hey! Pea soup with croutons, festooned with croutons, baby. Bref, one has to know what they're doing. After all, what is a crescendo without a suddenly? Faces cloud my sky, and I clutch a spear and a muffy blanket as I gaze out my window. My world is glass and it's horrible, offensive to anybody. If the flower man wants to bring me flowers to cover up some old wounds, he is greatly diminished by the size of my habitat. The space between all the people is the same. You can't spoil me with an offer of cut greens. I thrive on this. Just give them to me slowly. I have a long drive this afternoon. I have to beat the weather and defy the elements once again. All the time I think of the ruler. I have sharpened it for special effect. What? Are you round? Are you Chopin? Round shoulder to the very end. I must get ready as long as I want to avoid it. I have a condition here, you see. Somewhere between the letter D and the turn I have to make as I approach my old neighborhood. I will see his royalness and take a crap on his doormat. Hey! He still lives in the same lousy house, and he drinks the same lousy yellow paint. I'm a big bugaboo and I need to practice some more. Who am I kidding? I need to practice, period. I just realized something, and I know you were thinking the same thing. All songs are happy songs, and all the little yellow people wear happy crowns. I have the key to Satan's mailbox, and it feels like jelly in my pocket. I am in a diminished world, but I still feel super important. I must continue, but that is why it is more difficult for you, because I am not always here, and you have to learn to do some things by yourself. That was very good. Let's try it again. You have no right to do these things, okay? Now do it from here to the very end and wait for my reaction. I am waiting for you to begin. I have started. I am number one, and that's a bad thing to do. Don't look at me. Don't look at somebody. This shows you are afraid and not thinking of me. The goal is the image. The higher goal is expression. You think of yourself. Ugh, this is ugly, and it's not appreciated. You are very vain. A perfect figure skater can hurt itself, but because they are on that level and they broke their leg, they have to finish. They don't feel the pain. They'll feel it later. They don't feel the pain. That was pretty ugly, and it's pretty far away. This moment is the loudest. The higher notes usually are. Mustafio forbid. Do it again, and this time without mistakes. Regardless, I'm reminded of a lady. I had been acquainted with a well-known singer and actress. Without naming names, she had complained to me of periodic insomnia since she was 17, before a concert of a special party, or even after intercourse. I cannot sleep, she told Mustafio. She went on like that. Mustafio, sometimes after a very tasty meal, the insomnia can come like a stinking bolt and take me out of service for no apparent reason. I regressed her to the age of 41. She was not happy with the meals at home and quarreled a great deal with her parents. She was in love with her piano teacher, who was away in the Royal Navy. I had to give her 2 tablets on an empty stomach with a tumbler of water every 4 hours. She she asked. Was Mustafio's chest injured by the debris? Yes, I told her. Yes, although no ribs were broken. I'm happy to report that I did have internal injuries. Well, after hearing all this, I can assure you that she was entirely free from blame. As far as Mustafio was concerned, you know, if Mustafio was young and endowed with my shock of hair, I would not mind. But my wife is still 25. She's been 25 for centuries. At night, the lady is always tired and always sleepy. She yawns continually until the wee hours of the morning. The next day over breakfast I told her, as a brother you are fine, but as a wife you are useless. Brackish water and a tear for fratricide. The pineapple upside down Super Sunday briefcase breakfast tray has finally been sold to the highest bidder. You may push your queasy souls on the back to rest for now. Mustafio is sweating an onion between his thighs for the specific purpose of winning the chili contest that will be held in my honor tomorrow. Of course I would win anyway, but why not make it a bit more interesting for those who like interesting things? There was a world inside my magic radio, as the technician fixing it discovered. I had a knee joint and half a pint of beard. Yes, that was a magic radio. I kept the beard stored where the double D cup batteries used to go. He wanted the show, so he got himself a show. Most who want a show get a show, you know. Isn't that right, Joe? Hey, hey. The radio works again, yes, it's true. But the songs I gave to my expert are not the songs the expert returned them back with. I think my radio is now enjoying the songs I used to enjoy. Let him enjoy them. The beard is out of tune, and long walks have been out of question ever since my medication was adjusted. A certain pill has been giving me diarrhea, but I can't figure out which one. Maybe it's Bobby Goldsboro. Hey, honey, I miss you. And you're right here because I buried you in the backyard. They sure don't write them like they used to. Maybe I will add some weeds to my chili for a rustic type of flavor. Whatever I add, you will love it. At least you always seem to. Sometimes I feel that I could serve the chili tasters a steaming plate of horseshit, and they'd like that too. It's tough to find a man who will speak the truth once you've reached the top of the mountain. Now I can get every station on my magic radio, but all the songs have more hair than they used to. Back in my day, a song could crawl up a hill. This belongs now to the category of no more and never again. Mustafio sheds a tear for the upside downs of that plaid said yesterday. But meanwhile, Mustafio has decided to take up with a divorced cousin, Gertrude, who jovially cooked and cared for Mustafio during the emotionally draining months when I had made the intellectual leaps that finally resulted in the early drafts of my journal. Unlike poor Selena, she gives me person space, and not just for the science. As I become more widely known, ladies swarm around Mustafio like moonlets circling the stinking corpse of a husky. These dalliances irritated Gertrude, who eventually became my wife. But as she told a friend, a genius of her husband's kind could never be irreproachable in every respect. Mama Winkler likewise indulged Mustafio as if I was one of her own. Turning rather gregarious, I found myself spending idyllic hours sitting around in my bathrobe, pontificating and philosophizing in the company of women, while the steam of my coffee rose over my face, and sunlight slanted over the pastoral landscape and in through the window. The Mustafio that held court in his bathroom was no longer a Biedermeier, but a rude and self-possessed teenager, handsome with a shock of curly hair, dark luminous eyes imbued with attitude, and a genius for insolence. A boy whose favorite story was about the gymnasium teacher who complained that my mere presence was subversive. A man of the world, a flirt and a seducer, the impudent Swabian. Mustafio was something of a terror to his less traveled, less experienced schoolmates, with only a violin to Ramian socially. Now, who's that sunny despot who throws all the babies in a tizzy? It's me, Mustafio. Who's got balls so big he packs his dingling in a leather sling? That's right, Mustafio. Who can make a bad day worse just by cooking a catfish? That would be Mustafio. Who's got the head that's got no bones and a leg up on you and your mama, baby? Right again, Mustafio. Who's got the good foot lollipop show business booty ship shape? Ahoy, matey. Captain Mustafio. Mustafio has no pants on right or left at this very moment. Super dirt, baby, Mustafio. Mustafio has a heart of gold-plated lava, and you could hug him and he slips right through your arms. Too hot to handle, baby. That's Mustafio. About a mile and a half outside of town on the bend, just before the hospital, Mustafio had an appointment to put in the staircase, the circular staircase that was during the war, or thereabouts, to put the staircase. I recall they shelled the place. They shelled the place while Mustafio's gig staircase was being built. A nice place out there, about 10 acres. Fine for Mustafio. Mustafio coughed. To attract your attention, I'm a doctor and want to congratulate you on your speech. For it was a speech of considerable length, creating widespread interest. I am Mustafio, and your soul was created for companionship with me in building of soul, like the circular staircase, without its knowledge of identity. There is the active principle of mind and the ability to experience the activity of mind and separate. Mustafio. Come see us again, this is very interesting. What a marvelous brain you have. We do not mean to have dried cereal for lunch. There should be cooked cereal and cracked whole wheat, one at a time, steel cuts, oat and barley at another time. For Mustafio's petit déjeuner, please have plenty, and more. This has been taken. Oranges, lemons, limes, fish, fowl, just occasionally. Give Mustafio a good stiff steak, smothered in onions. Mushrooms, of course, may be added if so desired. Rye bread or brown bread is preferable. Do this for me, except in better conditions. Here is Mustafio's special recipe for a fine breakfast. It's called eggs Mustafio. Put 2 eggs in a bowl and smash them to bits with the business side of a hammer. Or on top of a hot radiator. When the eggs start to sizzle, remove the radiator from its moorings and slice into 4 sections. Serve immediately with a hot knishes and a schnapps. Hey, give me 6. And you thought all I could do was a lazy boy. That show he who's the boss. And there's a dinner to mend. Won't I be fine? Hey, for it is written, hey, do unto me Mustafio. Mustafio is the way, the life, the creator. The rich doctor spoke up. Give him an injection of strychnine. Another doctor spoke up. Give him some more morphine. Then Mustafio put the hot bricks wrapped in the towels inside of his thinking cap of one Mr. Bear. Then Mustafio put a hot stove lid over the mind of Mr. Bear's throat. Mustafio pried them open. That's where blood comes from. A couple of Mr. Bear's lower front teeth broke. There was no feet. How about the other stuff? Not a chance. What are you going to do? Because in no time Mustafio reckons you can make more money than the trees ever got from a card game. Mustafio's going to get married. Mustafio stared absently at his notebook, thinking, I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor, Mr. Jenkins, I'm a doctor. When are you getting married? I'm a doctor. They were silent then. Across the street, a mockingbird was building a nest in Mr. McCluskey's yard. My coldness finally fled me, and sought out another poor soul. The possible pop of a yellow ball hitting taut strings is feeling unmistakably real again. I am still in my jammies, but soon will be back in my high shorts, parading the tennis courts of the world in search of an exquisite sunshine. Mustafio has been at the boutiques lately. All these little shops have such pretty little bags. All the bags look different. So much detail has gone into their design. They are perfect, like tennis balls. I like perfect things, and that is why my bride of the week is a 20-year-old featherweight from the Principality of Monaco. I don't know her real name, but she asks me to call her Chi. When she says this, it is always with a giggle. As you might have noticed, I am totally smitten with her. Today she taught me how to use a bidet and to properly use French culotte. She is out shopping right now, and she asked me to babysit her little Iranian Pomeranian. The only problem was he soiled my bedroom slippers, and I threw him off the terrace. I know that she will be upset, but I cannot stand the sight of dog shit on my shoes. Maybe I will order in my lunch today. Maybe something from a fancy deli. I hope the Mexican delivery boy is a nice boy. If he is, I will give him a nice tip. Maybe I will watch the Today Show tomorrow and eat some yogurt. That sounds nice. Maybe I can go off to the gym and work off the tire iron I have on my third wheel. Hey! Or maybe I can go into the bathroom and read People magazine. Maybe I will have a nap. How wonderful it is to be in love. None of my great teachings originated in the Occident. The Occident received and spiritually reworked what Mustafio had to offer, assimilating it to its own form of thought and altering its thought to fit the pattern. You know, at time it did approach greatness, but it was never right there. They never nailed it. They never got the essence of me. Europe has a catalog of ideologies that speak of purity, certitude, and cohesion, but none of them possess the elemental force of me. It has poetry and art, but none of them the paintings, poems, and metaphors of Mustafio, the Nameless. What is it that Europe lacks, of which it is forever in need, which it can never generate out of its own resources? What Europe lacks is the pristine knowledge of me, Mustafio. Mustafio the American, the innate certitude that Mustafio is above all that is needed. That's it. Without me, so they say, there is no meaning and no truth. And so they say, he who walks on the way to Mustafio walks in the paths of the footsteps of Mustafio. I thought the pizza was lukewarm, but it is only Luke so. This is war. War. Man your positions, defend the poopy fields. Duct tape a saber to your wrist and cut off the tops of the hops. It's very quiet here in the bunker. Capitalism took hold, but it only lasted for 45 minutes. What are you going to do now that you have to get up at 6 in the morning? Why, at that hour, a fork in the road looks like a real fork. Hey! I will never eat breakfast again if that is the case. My importance to the world is relatively small. On the other hand, my importance to myself is tremendous. The more I am with myself, the better. I can keep my left hand deep inside the stuffed animal I found in the garbage. No one can find my hand inside Mr. Bear, and my hand cannot find me. I have to tie it down every night before I go to sleep so it doesn't attack me. Then I will go to the video arcade and try to palm off some of the Mexican nickels I forgot to surrender to the custom officials. I was distracted after they asked me to pull up my dress. Hey, imagine their surprise when they saw all of Mustafio's sexual itinerary. I have all the pieces from every millennia. They all work. They all have the good juice. Mustafio is filling up with the juice. I heard one extremely fat customs lady who had the name tag that said Thelma on it ask another customs official whose name escapes me. I heard Thelma ask, "Do you think he's a gay man?" I swung around and pulled down my dress in a hurry. I pointed at the obese woman and said, "It's Daddy, isn't it? Daddy did this to you, my dear Thelma. Poor Thelma, come to Mustafio." She collapsed in a buttery heap beside me. I have this effect on women always and at all times. Mustafio has the mucho macho baby. Just because the television Bear, you are there. We are alone together. I know your thoughts and you know mine. But tell me, what is that horrible smell? Are you reheating coffee grinds in a microwave oven again? What a cheap bastard we are. And just as I was starting to like you, almost again. A recent literary dinner found Mustafio in a richly reminiscent mood. I recalled a vacation on time of the roof of Morocco when I stumbled over two obvious old maids, napping blissfully in the sun, a camera on the floor next to them. On an impulse, the distinguished Mustafio snatched up the camera, took it into my private solarium, and snapped an entire reel of luxuriating nude worshippers, my personal collection. I put the camera back where I had found it. When the maiden ladies had their film developed, what did they see? They saw nature with pictures of Mustafio. That's something to imagine. That's something to imagine and toy with. Don't toy with Mustafio. Don't toy with the boy Mustafio. Mustafio is here. Mustafio. 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 Bye, Mr. Bear. I'm off to play. Mustafio, it's raining and you don't have your galoshes. I don't need it, Mr. Bear. You need it. Mustafio gets all wet and you ruin your clothes, or Mustafio gets wet and you ruin your clothes, or Mustafio gets wet and catches a cold outside without the galoshes. But Mr. Bear, it's not even raining outside. It is too. It is not. Look out the window. Or do you, Mr. Bear? The movie's almost over, and not a drop of rain. Well, I don't know about the movie. All I know is that I don't want to wear galoshes. I don't know about the movie. How can I know about the movie with all this chattering? How can anyone sleep with this racket? That's all I ever hear around this place. Mr. Bear heads to wear galoshes. Mr. Bear put on the galoshes. Mr. Bear will ruin his clothes. Mr. Bear put on the galoshes. Mr. Bear disapproves of this. Mr. Bear disapproves of that. Mr. Bear disapproves of Mustafio. March Mr. Bear downstairs to his room and take off his feet. I will not let you run around this house with the galoshes on such a day. Mustafio does not like this at all. Mustafio does not like that at all. Mustafio puts you in hell, and there is no more hell to pay. No more Mr. Bear. No more Mustafio to play with. No more Mustabear. You are there alone. I am sorry there is no more drops of rain for you. All the drops of rain are from me, Mustafio. 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 Mustafio.